Are you tired of spending too much of your hard-earned money at the supermarket? Are you dreaming of farm fresh eggs, homegrown veggies, and homemade everything? Well, welcome to Ditch the Store, where we break free from supermarket dependence and take back control of our food and household essentials. I'm CJ, and I'm here to show you that life is too short for store-bought eggs. So let's get started. G'day everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ditch the Store. If you are a new listener to us, our series Ditch the Store started as Not the Farmer's Wife, and we've gone on to Ditch the Store because it aligns more with what we're doing. Ditch the Store is predominantly about finding ways where we don't need to buy everything from the supermarket. And it's not about going back necessarily. I get frustrated when people go, oh, so you do things the old ways. Yeah, we do it maybe the way it used to be done, but it's not always about doing it the older ways. There are some new ways that are just as good. And it really bugs me sometimes when people are like, oh yeah, but you know, that homesteading thing is all about doing it in the old fashioned way. And it's like, no, it's a modern twist on it. It's really doing something better because we know more, but sometimes more traditional. And just because it's new, it doesn't mean it's the best. Anyway, this week's episode, which is episode 127, we're at 127, woo woo, is natural dishwashing solutions. And this one is one where it really is about taking the best of both and combining them, because a lot of people out there these days have dishwashers. I don't. I have two children that do the dishwashing, and they only do it when they're not cooking. The deal in our house is if you cook, you don't have to wash. So between the handy helper, myself, and the two kids, whoever does the cooking gets to sit on their lardy ass afterwards and not do any washing or wiping up. Now the kids are just about, they're 13 and 15, my two, so your kids may not be at that age yet where they can do it themselves, but I would definitely encourage you to start them early. I started mine early. Some people probably think I'm a bit harsh that I made them, start early. And we didn't always not have a dishwasher. It's only been the last 5 years that we completely scrapped the idea of a dishwasher. We actually own a dishwasher and it's out in the shed. We just don't plug it in here because we found that being off-grid, we have a certain amount of water that we have, that we can use, and a certain amount of power. And unfortunately, in off-grid situations, modern conveniences don't always work as well as they should. So for us, we can't run heavy power users overnight because there's no solar power coming in, and the batteries tend to get drained a bit more overnight if you're running washing machines, dishwashers, things like that. So we tend to use all our heavy appliances first thing in the morning, or not first thing, but 9-10 o'clock, depending on the sunlight situation. In summer, we can run pretty much 24/7, but in winter, we definitely restrict our hours of use on heavy electrical loads. So air fryers, ovens. The Thermomix isn't too bad, surprisingly. Yay for the Thermomix. Another vote for it. Washing machines, vacuums, dishwashers, all are heavy users of power. And in the dishwasher's case, it lost out on the water usage as well. A sink full of water for us to wash up is much more economical than a dishwasher full. And maybe if we had a completely full dishwasher, then it would be, I've seen case studies where a full dishwasher worth of water being used is actually as much as what you would use washing up dishes by hand. And if that was the case, that would be great. But the kids are generally out during the day, the handy helper if he's at work. But even if he is at home, because we live a predominantly carnivore lifestyle, we'll cook in one pan pretty much all day because we use cast iron pans. And so we're only really using a plate, knife and a fork at the most. And I tend to only eat 2 meals a day anyway. So that really does restrict how much I'm using. So it is only of a night time that we have a big heavy load of washing up where we've cooked dinner and the kids have eaten there. Otherwise, the kids are at school usually, and their breakfast is quite simple. So dishwashers went out the window for us, and we have hand dishwashing, and that's what we've always used. But for a lot of people, that's not the case. A lot of people have dishwashers, and I have no problem with that. Anything that makes life easier, I would go with. Just because I homestead, it doesn't mean that I'm anti new appliances or anything like that. I mean, my next big purchase, I keep saying it, my next big purchase is going to be one of those robo vacuum mops. I fucking hate doing the floors. I hate vacuuming. I hate mopping. It's probably my most hated chore in the house. And it's because I'm a little bit anal about it. I'm a little bit, I don't like it when it's not done properly. So even if the kids do it, I tend to wait till they've gone and redo it, which is not great. So I keep saying my next big purchase is going to be a vacuum mop, one of those robo vacuum mops. And then of a daytime, middle of the day, I can just set it, program it so that it vacuums and mops while I'm in my study doing work and, come out of my study, that afternoon and the floors are clean. It'll be my one big indulgence. Anyway, dishwashing, liquid dishwashing tablets for dishwashers. We're going to discuss the whole lot today. So we're still on our homemade cleaning bandwagon, and this one is one that really hits the hip pocket. Not the dishwashing liquid so much. We buy Dawn dishwashing liquid when we do buy it from Costco, which is really cheap. But I've been making my own and it's even cheaper. So if it's cheaper than Costco in a bulk pack, then in my mind, that's a good thing. But dishwashing tablets, I can remember when I did have a dishwasher, they were super expensive. And I used to do a lot of juggling around shops to try and find cheaper ones. So I used to find that the $2 shops here in Australia, so they're called the Reject Shop, they obviously used to buy bulk discontinued or nearly out of date things. And I don't know that there would be an out of date for dishwasher tabs, but they used to occasionally have dishwasher tabs really, really cheaply, like, a 50 box, and it would be like $13. And for Australia, that's cheap. Anything under 50 cents a tablet seems to be cheap. I can remember at one point there was almost like a price war going on with dishwasher tablets, and I was getting them for like between 15 and 20 cents a tab. But some of the 15-cent tab ones, they weren't so good. I felt like they weren't really kind of doing the job on the cleaning. And that's the other thing with dishwashers. They're only as clean as they start out. If you have a dirty dishwasher that hasn't been, I used to clean my dishwasher out probably once a month. If you haven't cleaned out the filters and cleaned out the pipes and that kind of thing and run cleaning products through the dishwasher, your plates are not going to get clean no matter what you put in there as a dishwasher tab. So you could spend $1 a tablet and still not have clean dishes. And the one thing about hand washing is if it's clean pretty much straight away. And don't get me wrong, the kids have been asked to go back and rewash things where they've washed up and made a right mess of it. Not really looked. Wiped it over with a very, very not wet sponge and then put it in the rack thinking it'll do. But the main thing is that we don't want to be dealing with chemicals. So that's why we look at doing the handmade. So I'm going to go through all of it. Now, I did talk a lot last week about chemicals in laundry detergents, laundry powders, laundry liquids. But I will reiterate what I have said last week. I will reiterate that this week. If you are somebody, and I get in trouble all the time because people call me a climate change denier, which I'm okay with that title. I'm actually okay with it. But it's not so much about ignoring it. I haven't seen the science behind it yet. And when somebody can show me the science behind it, that, we just don't have the records that go back 100 years. We have 100 years worth of weather records. We don't have 200 years worth of weather records, and we certainly don't have 1,000 years worth of weather records. And given how long the Earth has been in existence, I'm still waiting for somebody to show me some stats. The only stats I've seen are stats from the ice cap poles, and those stats go against climate change, not for it. So I'll wait, and I stand to be corrected. But one thing I am very passionate about is the environment, and that's because I depend on the environment for my farm and for my living. And I think that when people pollute the environment, they really need to have a long, hard look at themselves. If your own personal environment can't be so important to you that you don't pollute your own environment, then really the wider scheme of climate change should be the last thing that you should be considering. You really should be focusing on your immediate environment and what you can change. And that's why I get pretty high and mighty about it and go, if you're so convinced that climate change is a thing and you're so convinced that we need to do something about it, you need to start with what you can change. And that's your immediate household vicinity. And that is a big part of that is what we're putting into our water sources and our waste. There, that's my rant. I had it last week and I'm having it again this week. So supermarket dish liquids are full of chemicals. And the reason they're full of chemicals is because that gets dishes clean, and people like the idea of a nice smelling, sudsy dishwashing soap that when they wash their dishes, the dishes come out looking clean and people are happy then. They look and go, well, that's a clean plate, that's a clean fork, that's a clean knife. I'm happy, I'm eating off clean cutlery and plates. But what's in it? What's really in it? So one of the main ingredients in dishwashing liquid is synthetic fragrances. And that's because it smells nice when you have that lovely lemony fresh or pine fresh or, there's an apple one, and Dawn has its own weird kind of smell. And I actually use Dawn dishwashing liquid when we are dispatching our chickens, because it's the best one for breaking the surface of the water to dunk the chickens in to pluck them. Go figure. Dawn's the key to that one. But they also have things like the sodium lauryl sulfates and things like that, which are not great for skin and can cause rashes, irritations, dermatitis, things like that. They're also full of preservatives and dyes because, it's important that our dishwashing liquid looks the right colour. Yellow or blue or green, that seems to be all the rage. Red doesn't get much of a run, I've noticed. I actually don't mind red-looking dishwashing liquid, but it doesn't get much of a run. Maybe the dye is more expensive or something, I don't know. Dishwasher tablets, they contain a whole shit tin more. So I spoke last week about laundry powders not having so much formaldehyde in them now as a preservative. Dishwashing tablets definitely have formaldehyde releases in them, and they're things that hold the tablet in place and preserve it into its current form in that tablet form. And when it gets hit by water, they start to release and it comes apart and becomes the soap. They also contain chlorine bleach, which it has its time and place of using things. I don't really want it on my plates. Phosphates, which are banned in Australia for things going into the water supply, and non-biodegradable soaps, surfactants, which is basically soaps. So the thing about those ingredients is they go into the waterway, they affect the waterway, the aquatic system, they affect the soil. If it's going into a septic or a grey water system, they will go in and affect those as well. But the real thing that I can't get my head around, and this is something that's bothered me for years, is we're washing our plates with chemicals that we don't want on our soil or in our waterways or in our garden, but we're happy to wash our plates that we're going to eat our food off and our cutlery that we're going to put in our mouth with those same chemicals. I don't know. Does anybody else, I hope that resonates with somebody, that idea of using chemicals to wash your plates that you're going to then eat off. It's like using chemicals to wash your hair or chemicals to wash your clothes and then wear them for 8 hours. It doesn't seem to make sense to me that we would do that. And then have a talk about, things that people aren't doing to fix the environmental issues. If you can't fix your immediate environmental issues, maybe you need to reconsider your stance on things. Anyway, so why are those things so horrible for the environment? Phosphates feed algae blooms. They're terrible for waterways. Now, it's really weird because I was trying to explain to the kids a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about swimming in the ocean at night, and you're not supposed to do it because supposedly sharks are more active overnight, whatever. We used to, as a young person, when I was first in the police force, we did a couple of holidays down the coast because we're not near a coastline, and we would swim at night, sometimes having imbibed a couple of beers or something else. And there was a particular beach we used to go to where there was phosphorus in the water. And when you would swim through, you would leave this trail of light glow water, like it would be like fluorescent water behind you. It was really weird. I don't understand the whole science of it, but if anybody does, please DM me and tell me, because I loved the idea of being able to swim through this water and have all this fluorescent glow behind me. I felt like I was a bit of a mermaid or something. Anyway, side story. Phosphates aren't great for the water when they're coming in from soap and from environmental pollutants. They cause oxygen depletion, which is not great for aquatic life, and it increases the chance of algae blooms. And here in Canberra, near where I live, we have algae blooms in our local lake system all the time, and they're constantly closing it to swimmers and boat users because of it, because it's really not very good for you. Surfactants, so soaps and rinse aids, contain things like alcohol, I'm going to read this, ethylates, which also harm aquatic bacteria. And therefore, because of that, they disrupt ecosystems. And I don't think people realise sometimes how important ecosystems are. Particularly things like row cropping. A lot of people will say, oh, it's better to have almond milk or not almond milk, oat milk or rice milk rather than cow's milk. It's better for the environment. If anybody has worked on a row cropping farm and seen what happens to the soil and to every living thing within, acres and acres of the row cropping, you would know that ecosystems are important. When you kill all the small subspecies of animals and insects and all the natural bugs in the system falls apart and soil dies. And the only way to bring soil back when it's dead is to put artificial things back into the soil to make the soil come back to life so that you can grow things in it. It's a horrible cycle to get into, and that's why ruminant animals living on soil is the best thing for soil health, because it doesn't do all those things to the soil. And it keeps the ecosystem going. I mean, when you've got ruminant animals, there's always going to be insects, there's always going to be birds, there's going to be small rodents. The ruminants aren't killing anything, so everything can live together. Anyway, off my regenerative agriculture rant. And the real issue with some of these chemicals that are in these soaps are that they are persistent pollutants. They don't break down in grey water, and therefore they don't break down in septics, water systems, water supplies, aquatic situations. They go into the water table and they're still present, which means that you'll end up with them in your soil and in your garden because they just stick to everything. It's a bit like those microplastics that they talk about, that we've consumed so many things that are wrapped in plastic now that in our body we're actually consuming little microplastics. So they're not great for the environment. I will get off my environmental bandwagon now. If you are at all worried about the environment, my hot tip is do not buy chemical cleaners. So then putting on my ditch the store hat, the cost factor, which is where I come in because I am a tight ass and I hate spending money that I don't have to spend. So I had a quick search because I haven't bought tabs for a while for dishwashers. So at the moment, dishwasher tabs are anywhere between 30 cents and 70 cents a tablet. I didn't realise they'd gone. I thought they'd gone up. I can remember them being 70 cents a tab for the really, really expensive ones. But I can also remember really cheap ones being like 15 cents a tab. But everything I found recently is, like from recent shopping, advertisements, is 30 cents for the cheapest of the tablets. Can't believe that. That's ridiculous. Anyway, store-bought liquid, between $3 to $7 a bottle. And I think we're paying, when we were buying, we haven't bought Dawn for ages from Costco, because it's like a 2 litre bottle or something, I think, 4 litre, 2 litre, 3 litre, something like that. It's a fucking big bottle. And so we haven't bought it for ages, but it was like $10 or something for a bottle the last time we bought it, but I think it has gone up now. So store-bought liquid, $3 to $7, but what you have to factor in there is probably about 80% of what's in the bottle is water, which means you're paying for soap mixed with water. And we did discuss this back in, I think, the first episode that I talked about with why you should be looking at homemade cleaning products, because so many of these products that you buy are essentially a clump of cleaning product topped up with water. So why not just sell you the clump of cleaning product and tell you to mix it with water in your own home? I don't get how that works. Anyway, that's the costs for buying it in the shop. I worked out my homemade version, 10 cents a wash. 10 cents a wash. So whether and that applies for the dishwashing tabs that I worked out how to make as well. But if you, it seems like not much, like it might seem to you like, well, that's not a big deal, but every little bit helps. And with the cost of living crisis the way it is here in Australia, I don't know in the US whether everybody else is struggling as well, but over here in Australia at the moment, people can't afford, things are going by the wayside. I've never been or not in the last 10 years, been somebody to go and have my hair done or things like that. But I had a girlfriend the other day say to me, I've had to cut back so that I'm getting my hair done, dyed and cut every 8 weeks instead of every 4 weeks, because she really can't afford to do it every 4 weeks. That does my head in, because I go to Just Cuts probably once every 3 months and get a trim, or this last haircut that I'm sporting, which was a big chop, I went to the local CIT, so our local TAFE, or it's like a local university where hairdressers learn to be hairdressers. I went in there and it cost me $27 to get a haircut from a 4th year. He was a 4th year apprentice. So he's qualified almost anyway. He's cutting hair already in the salon that he works in. But I went in there and for $27, I got a hair wash and a haircut. And I think that's pretty good for $27. I'll take that. So anyway, off my budget bandwagon again. Now, the DIY liquid dish soap. I'm trying to get through all this. Henny helps out picking up kids from the bus stop, so I've got to try and get through this before they get back. This is my recipe, and I will post it in the show notes. A quarter of a cup of Castile soap. Now, I've shown you before what Castile soap is. It's just a pure version of soap. And because it's pure, it's very concentrated. You don't need to use as much of it. So a quarter of a cup. 1 tablespoon of washing soda. The washing soda is, I get it in a bag. It's you can get it at Coles or Woolies, but you can also get it from Bunnings. And I'm going to try and track down where I can buy it in bulk, and I'll post that and let you know. Then some essential oils, because it smells nice. So 10 drops of lemon or eucalyptus I find works really well in dishwashing liquid. And you can drop a tablespoon of vinegar in there as well. And the only reason I would put the tablespoon of vinegar in there is it helps the soap kind of break up a bit. And when you add water, because you add water to it to top it up, when you add water to it, it makes it less, the oils can transfer through the water much better. So you put all that in a bottle, maybe a 500 ml, and top it up with water. Once it's topped up with water, don't shake the shit out of it, because it'll just end up frothy because of the Castile soap. But give it a good swirl, a good shake, or you can shake it and then leave it to sit, and of course it'll settle back down again. And then just a small squirt, the same amount that you would normally use, is going to be enough for a sink full of washing up. Now, you might need to give it a little bit of a shake or a little bit of a turn around before you use it each time, because it will settle and separate to a degree. So just give it a little mix. It will cut through grease on things, but you may need to use a little bit more, or what I generally use is a little bit of bicarb. If I've got something that's particularly greasy, and because we're back doing a lot of carnivore, a little animal-based eating again at the moment, a little bit of bicarb soda in a pan with some water, and it will cut through any grease in there. I still do buy Gumption. Gumption is my go-to for my enamel pots. I tend to like that for my enamel pots because it doesn't scratch. So you definitely can use Gumption if it's something that's really grotty. Bit of Gumption, bit of water, bit of elbow grease, and it will come clean. Now, it won't be super bubbly when you put it in the water and wash with it. The bubbles will go pretty flat. And there's a reason for that, and I will talk about it afterwards. But it does get everything clean. Now, you can tweak that recipe a little bit with scent, so more essential oils if it's not strong enough smell-wise for you. If it's a little bit thick, you can add a little bit more vinegar to it to kind of thin it down a little bit. But just tweak it and get it to what you want. It doesn't take much to make it up. Literally, it's one of those things, again, where if you've got a bottle that you're using, just mark on the side where to fill the Castile soap to, where to fill the vinegar to. You know, a tablespoon of bicarb, obviously. You're going to put that in through a little funnel. Yeah, whack it all in there and away you go. Now, dishwasher tabs. And I have to pre-claimer on this. I have not done these for myself because I don't have a dishwasher. So if there's somebody out there who'd really like to try it for me, I'm going to give you this recipe. I want you to have a crack at making it. Post a photo of what it looked like and post a photo of your plates before and after to let me know how it went. I would be so happy. I might even send you a gift if you do that for me. Okay, so dishwasher tab mix. And you mix all the dry stuff first, obviously. 1 cup of washing soda, 1 cup of baking soda. So same kind of system for laundry powder. half a cup of citric acid. And I kind of, when I looked up to see whether that was negotiable, because it can be, I'm going to discuss citric acid in a minute. It's not a problem. You can use citric acid. I always thought it was very strong chemical, but it's not. Half a cup of citric acid and half a cup of coarse salt. It doesn't have to be coarse. It said coarse on the recipe that I saw. But honestly, I've seen other people say, no, it actually works okay even if it's fine salt. And then 10 to 15 drops of lemon essential oil. They reckon lemon's the best one because it has the best grease cutting ability. And then a few spritzes of water to bind. So what you do is you mix all the dry ingredients together. Then you add the oils into the dry ingredients and then lightly spritz it with water. Not too much. If it starts to fizz, you've added too much water and the bicarb's starting to go. But just enough to make it kind of, even if you used wet hands maybe, and clumped it together. And then what you want to do is press it into silicon ice cube molds. So just like a normal size ice cube mold, let it dry overnight. So leave it in the silicon molds, let it dry. And then the recipe that I found, it said if you pop them out of the molds, but leave it on a tray somewhere just for a couple of hours, just till it's completely dry. So with no wind on it, no humidity near it, just let it completely settle. Then the ice cube mold shape should stay hard. So then you want to gently put them into a airtight jar. Once they're in the airtight jar, 1 ice cube of powder into the dishwasher tablet compartment, and away you go. And you can, and what it said was, because I used to buy Rinse Aid for the dishwasher. Rinse Aid, vinegar. Just pour vinegar straight into the Rinse Aid compartment. Now, I did used to do that when I had a dishwasher because I found that it kept the dishwasher cleaner. It kind of cut through, vinegar's really good at cutting through grease. So it used to cut through and kind of flush the filters out in the dishwasher. So vinegar in your Rinse Aid. Now, if you've got really, really hard water, like if you're on bore water or well water, a little bit more citric acid can help break down that water. If it fizzes, like I said, when you're making up the tablets, you've probably added too much water. And if your dishwasher is getting a bit funky, what they said was just straight up bicarb soda, sprinkle it all through the bottom of the dishwasher and put the dishwasher on a cycle. Let it run through a hot cycle with all the bicarb in there. And the bicarb, and if you've got vinegar in the rinse dispenser, it will push any crud through. But bicarb's a natural deodorizer. So if the dishwasher's getting a bit funky, the bicarb should absolutely wipe out any funkiness. Now, couple of myths that people always talk about when it comes to homemade dishwashing liquid. No bubbles. People go, it's not as bubbly. It doesn't, like, I don't get the froth with it. Look, it's a myth that the bubbles help clean things. And I think we've been so institutionalized towards having bubbly dishwashing liquid, that we just assume that it won't clean if it's not bubbly. Not true at all. It will still clean. Check your plates. I ask you to try it. Give it a shot and see, but it will clean them. It's not about tricking your mind by going, there's bubbles and it smells a certain way, so therefore it must be clean. It's about actually doing the job of cleaning it. Cloudy glasses. So sometimes glasses with the homemade ones, sometimes glasses don't come out as clean. I've noticed it with our glasses. The handy helper and I occasionally imbibe in a whiskey after dinner, and our glasses that we have theirs in, sometimes they can look a little bit cloudy with the homemade dishwashing one. So I had a bit of a look to see what I could do to fix that. And vinegar rinse. So all I do is I have 2 sinks, and if I'm washing glassware, I just tend to put a little bit of water in there with a little bit of vinegar and put the glasses in there and give them a really good rinse. Like I leave them sit in there while I wash some other stuff up, and then I get the glasses out and just let them drain naturally after they've been vinegar rinsed. Come clean, no problems. Really nice clean glassware. Will they really be clean? I honestly try it for a week. If you don't like it, you can go back to your store-bought. But I think you'll find that they will come clean. But you do need to give it about a week to really readjust your way of thinking. And I look at it like, and I think I'm not going to talk about it in this cleaning series, but I am going to talk about homemade shampoos and conditioners and things like that. I went through a stage several years ago, before I was living on the farm, where I decided to reduce my amount of shampoo that I was using. I'd read that it wasn't great for the environment. It wasn't great for your body. So I decided to cut down. I know a lot of people who don't even shampoo their hair at all. So I went through a phase of not shampooing my hair. And I've got to be honest, the first week it killed me. It absolutely killed me. I was a once a 3-day shampooer. And to go from that to nothing, it really, really killed me. But I kept going, and I was actually traveling overseas afterwards. And I ended up traveling through Nepal. I trekked up to base camp at Everest. And during that period, I had 20 days where I did not wash my hair. Because I couldn't, because we didn't actually have a proper wash. We had a bucket wash, and they were certainly not going to waste water on me washing my hair. I was able to wash the important bits, my feet, my hands, my face, and other areas, and there was no hair washing to be had. So I went 20 days without washing, and so I was brushing my hair with a natural fibre brush and not using anything in my hair. And about day 15, something changed. And my hair suddenly became super clean, super fresh. There was no grease buildup. There was no nothing. It just, all of a sudden, it just felt really nice. And the more research I did, the more I realised that Western civilizations, we are so paranoid about washing our hair all the time. And there's so many other countries where people just don't do that. They use oils for their hair. They brush their hair a lot. They try and distribute the natural oils through their hair so that their hair feels nice. And we just go overboard with it. And I think it's the same with dishwashing liquid. We insist on having this frothy, foamy stuff, and if it doesn't smell a certain way and doesn't look a certain way, it can't be working. Give it a week, give it 2 weeks, give it a month, see how you go, and come back and tell me what you think. Anyway, the last frequently asked question that I wanted to touch on was the citric acid issue. And a couple of times people have said to me, why can't you use, like, what's the thing about citric acid? Is it like, should you be wearing a mask? Should you be wearing gloves? That kind of thing. So I went and did a bit more research, because I thought I always wore gloves when I was using citric acid because I thought that I had to. It turns out you don't have to. So citric acid, all it is a naturally occurring compound that's found in citric fruits like lemons, oranges, what's those other ones? Grapefruit, fruits, things like that. And it's commonly used in cooking, cleaning, and DIY projects. Seems pretty harmless. And it is, but you should probably supervise it around children. And there's a couple of reasons for that. And the same reasons that, and I can remember seeing somebody touching something and touching it to their lip to see if it was citric acid and going, oh, yeah, that's citric acid. And I thought, oh, I would have thought that would have, as acid, isn't it going to burn them? No. It doesn't. It is an acid in the same way that lemon juice is an acid, but the difference is a very mild acid in the same way that lemon juice is a very mild acid. So it can irritate the eyes, it can irritate the skin, and it can cause coughing or wheezing when inhaled as a powder, which could be said for a lot of things. If you inhale as a powder, it could cause all those things too. So the thing is that with kids, what they say is be careful using it around children, only because they may not realise that they can't breathe it in or inhale it, and because it looks like sugar, salt, things like that are fairly innocuous. So the problem is that kids may pick it up, put it near their face or mouth without realising that it's actually, it's quite tart. And I tried some just to see, and it's quite tart, but it doesn't do you any harm at all. But it does react with water when mixed with water and bicarb. So it'll have like a fizzing reaction. It's something you could use in a kid's project. If they were doing like a volcano, you could use it for that. Citric acid, water, and baking soda, because I love those little science experiment things. And because of that, the concern is that kids may look at it and go, oh, I want to touch it, and then put their hand to their mouth. Because it's cute making volcanoes and things like that. I already mentioned it looks like salt and sugar, which is another one. But the bottom line about it all is that citric acid is completely safe when being handled. The only reason that the disclaimer is always there, adult supervision, is because kids may not realise and might put their hand to their mouth or their eye, not realising that it's something that maybe isn't going to feel great when it's rubbed into your eye, in the same way that sand isn't going to feel great when it's rubbed in your eye, or salt is rubbed into your eye, or OJ when he's cutting up onions for me and then rubs his eye with his hand that he's cut up onions with. But otherwise, it is no dramas at all. Now, the last thing I wanted to touch on after those ones was the trace chemicals in the washing, which I did mention before. So I did a little bit of study, a little bit of research to see about trace chemicals on your plates and cutlery, because it does do my head in a little bit that we wash things that we're going to use to eat our food with chemicals, same chemicals we wouldn't ingest, and we're washing our cutlery and plates with it. So I got some studies that show that dishwasher rinse aids and surfactants can leave residues that are actually detrimental to your gut lining when ingested in trace amounts. Now, the trace amounts are minute, and I think while the average person that doesn't have a gut issue is not going to have a problem with it, the way that it read, somebody who has gut issues or is very sensitive with their gut issues would probably have some reaction. And that does make me wonder whether, there seems to be more of a prevalence towards gut issues at the moment for a lot of people around the world. And it does make me wonder whether we're just ingesting too much of this crap that is not good for us, and that's causing the problems to become worse. And it's not necessarily about the food they're eating or their natural microbiome, but the fact that they're adding these things to their gut, which are not great for gut health. Now, what it said on the studies that I looked at were that it can promote inflammation, it can disrupt the microbiome, and it can worsen chronic illnesses. Now, the more I've done about natural health and natural diet, the more I've worked out that the gut is the centre of your health. If your gut is not right, the rest of your health will start to come down with it. So healing your gut is super, super important. So I guess people out there that don't have a gut issue and don't have any health issues don't need to worry. But if you are listening and you are somebody who has gut problems or chronic health problems that seem to stem from your gut, it's probably worth having a crack at making these homemade dishwashing liquids and dishwashing powders just to see if it makes a difference to you. If it doesn't make a difference, no biggie, go back to the old way, the way that you were using before. It's not a big deal. But I would really strongly encourage you, if you do have any health issues like that are microbiome, gut related, try it for a couple of months, because it'll take a couple of months for your gut to heal. Try it for a couple of months, see how you go, and let me know, because I would be really interested. I won't notice the difference because I'm already using them. So any gut issues I had, and I've got to be honest, I haven't had gut issues in, probably in 6 years, which, maybe that says something about the fact that I've been using more natural products for that period of time anyway. But definitely have a crack and see how you go. And one of the other things that it did say was that if you're using plastic or timber cutlery or timber, timber plates, porous surfaces will hold more of those chemicals, which means you're definitely still getting a dose. Now, that means that if you're using plastic cutlery, say you take your lunch to work every day, trying to be a good person, and you have plastic cutlery that you use to eat your lunch off, and then you're washing it in those dishwashing liquids, you're actually washing your cutlery in stuff that is going to impact your microbiome. Food for thought. Oh, food for thought. And that's one. There you go. Here you go. Here's interesting and completely fucking unrelated fact to everything. For those listening, Kai Kai Belong Ting Ting is Papua New Guinean pidgin for food for thought. It's one of the few phrases that stuck with me after 4 years in Papua New Guinea. That was like 25 years ago. And I came back to Australia, and that phrase has stuck with me ever since. It was a guy who was trying to hand me a Bible pamphlet, and he sung out and said, Kai Kai Belong Ting Ting, which is food for thought. There. Random fact number 150 for you. So that's soon, so I need to wrap it up. You've got your two solutions, one for dishwashing and one for liquid dishwasher in the sink and one for dishwashing tablets. Go and make them, have a crack. If you do make them, link me in at Mojo Homestead so that I can have a look at them, or at Ditch the Store so that I can have a look. Next week we are discussing all things bathroom cleaners, because bathroom cleaners are probably the biggest chemical load in your house. And if you haven't already done it and you're interested in getting chooks, be sure to get onto my priority wait list. We have got a course coming up, and the priority wait list is open and able to be registered for now. So go to www.mojohomestead.net/priority list, or one word. And you can register there on it, because the course is going to run and there's only going to be 10 people on it, and it's going to be a special price. So make sure you jump on that if you're interested at all in having chickens and having your own egg supply. Anyway, that is it for me for this week. Have a fantastic week. I will speak to you all again next week. Bye for now. Well, that's it for today's episode of Ditch the Store. If you're loving the journey to self-sufficiency, be sure to subscribe. You can also leave a review for us or share this episode with a friend who's ready to break up with their supermarket. If you've got questions or success stories, we'd love to hear about them on the socials. You can also find me at www.mojohomestead.net. Until next time, keep raising, growing and making. And remember, life's too short for store-bought eggs.